Hello, everybody. This is the one and only Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and you are watching Wrestling Collectors.
For 5 years, I've run WrestlingForSale.com, the world's first wrestling merchandise marketplace. I've bought and sold close to 10,000 vintage wrestling collectibles. Along the way, I've had the privilege of meeting some of the world's most passionate collectors. Call them psychos, call them hoarders. Whatever you call them, join me as I explore their never-before-seen piles of gold. These historians and wrestling archivists all strive for one thing, the Holy Grail. I'm your host, Ted Hirsch, and this is The Wrestling Collectors. On this week's episode of The Wrestling Collectors, we're catching up with Mike, aka Fig Heel. I talked to every toy collector I know, and they mentioned if I'm going to do another toy episode, it has to be about Fig Heel. Let's catch up with him and take a look at one of the greatest wrestling collections of any kind on the planet.
But before we get into it, real quick, I just wanted to say thank you because you don't know this at all, and I didn't share this with you right now, but you, without knowing, actually helped me pay for this house because, a few years ago, I was getting ready to buy a house, and I used to be a big collector of wrestling shirts, okay? You may or may not like this story, but so I started listing them on eBay, and the first day I started listing stuff, because I had 400-500 shirts, sweatpants, shorts, hats, everything. I was a huge collector of it because once I got into college, I was like, I'm not going to be collecting toys, but I still got to collect something wrestling. So I got into shirts, vintage wrestling shirts. And the first day I listed stuff, it was like immediately, boom, boom, sold. And I was like, who's buying these? And it was Wrestling for Sale. And I was like, oh my God. And it literally, in one summer, paid for the down payment on my house. Hundreds and hundreds of shirts. I just unload them.
Oh, by the way, you're welcome.
Yeah, dude. So thank you. And this was I can't remember if you'll know what I'm talking about. 2016, 2017, when that boom, when like Post Malone, Drake, all the rappers, these didn't just become collectibles. These became almost like designer.
There's also two different kinds of collectors. I'm a little mix of both. I love, I always wear everything I buy. Like, that's why I only buy in my size. I have like two things that don't fit me. But other than that, I love to wear it. I think there are the people who are buying for fashion purposes. Like, maybe they loosely watched in 1998 and know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is and, have some stuff for trend reasons. But then, there are the hardcore collectors who collect for history. And I'm a little bit of both. I like historic items. For instance, I love this shirt. I've only seen it twice. I own both items.
Awesome.
And it's the first Royal Rumble, and it wasn't the Royal Rumble we know today, so they didn't mass produce the merchandise.
I showed you in the one video, but this is like the one I kept. I was just like, I'm a huge Kerry Von Erich fan, and
what size is that?
That's the thing, man. Like, it doesn't have the tag.
Do you wait? This is good. Business is about to pick up. Do you wear that or no?
No, I can't. That's just something.
Would you be open to trading for a smaller size since you're not wearing it?
Maybe. Yeah, we could talk.
All right, Peter. I have some news.
All right.
So going back to the first episode of the Wrestling Collectors, I know that you were looking for the Texas Tornado ringer.
Perfect looking, extra large Texas Tornado. I could maybe get pushed to $600 or something. But that's my number one most wanted. And it would still be very hard for me.
In your mind, it's very high on your list. A couple weeks ago, I came up on two of them. I sent you one. Didn't quite fit.
Close, but it's almost like I have it, but I don't have it, because like I can't wear it. Like, I can, but it won't be good.
So it was a bit of a tease, but I'm in the process of interviewing the greatest wrestling toy collector in the world, Fig Heel.
Fig Heel. I know Fig Heel.
Fig Heel. And he said that he has one wrestling shirt, and that wrestling shirt is an XL Texas Tornado ringer.
Is that right?
There are major developments. So I was just wanted to cut the episode.
All right, tell him I'll trade him Bear. Tell him I'll trade him Bear straight up for the Texas Tornado.
I think get a little more for Bear. I think it would be like Bear for the Texas Tornado and cash considerations. But I don't think you should give it Bear.
All right, but what can we do? What does he need?
So I think that the way we can do it, because he doesn't wear it, he would take on your medium. And there might be cash.
My stretched medium.
The stretched medium, which is closer to a large. But I think that plus cash considerations would probably get you his shirt.
All right, let's go. I'm in.
So I have the green light?
You have the green light. Like John Legend. Give you the green light. You get the idea.
Exactly. So I will talk to him, and hopefully if all works out, I'll have it to you in a week or so. Watching YouTubes. Will you tell us a little bit about what you like to collect?
Yeah, so my Instagram is @FigHeel, and basically what I collect is anything wrestling toy related. Like a lot of people, they have certain rules, which if you talk to Matt, I'm sure he talked about, he has certain rules with certain things. That's the problem with me, is I have no rules. The only rule is it has to be wrestling toy. So like it gets really messy and expensive, and I have this is my toy room, but I also have a bunch of stuff in crates in storage. Like because I'm so crazy about it. And the other thing is that I don't let anything go. Like some people are like, oh, I don't really need this. I'm going to sell it off. I will only sell something if I have a double of it. And people try and trade me all the time. Like I don't let anything go. Even if it's not something that's worth anything, I don't let anything go. That's how much this collection means to me. So I've pretty much been present for the majority of wrestling toy lines. So while AWA and WFLJNs were a couple years before my time, my brothers collected them. So I always grew up having those too. And my first actual toys of my own were WWF Hasbro. So my whole life, people ask like, oh, how did you first get into wrestling? And it's my whole life, as far as I can remember, has been wrestling, because my dad, I have, tons of action figures, at least close to the complete collections of almost every action figure line. I have crazy things all the way down to like slip and slides. And this is one of my favorite pieces. This is a WF Hasbro trace plates.
Oh, yeah.
And I love stuff like this because I like the chase. I like really rare things to find. And what makes this hard to find mint in box is that this isn't something that somebody saw and was like, oh, we're going to keep that in the box. This was, majority of them were open. So to find one sealed and in almost like perfect condition is so difficult. I think this took me like 15 years to find one in this condition.
Yeah. So when did you start watching wrestling?
As long as I can remember, man. My dad's been taking me to the matches since before I can really talk. Like I was always, and we're from like Philly, so he would bring us to the Spectrum, and back then it was a lot easier to get tickets. So he would get tickets for the next show before that show ends. So we were always front row.
Wow.
I remember I used to always bring cans of sardines for the Bushwhackers. Ricky Steamboat we were at every Philly show. He'd come up, shake our hands, say, hey to me and my dad, like he knew us by name. Like it was just, as long as I can remember, it was just part of my life, man. And I up until Instagram, I collected this stuff, privately, because like I didn't realize that there was thousands of people that did the same thing and would even care about any of this behind me. I don't know if you show off your collection, your private collection, to anybody, but even when I have people who aren't wrestling fans and they see this, they're like enamored. They're like, everybody has some kind of connection to wrestling, whether they realize it or not, whether it's Hulk Hogan, The Rock. So everybody knows a little something, which is so interesting to me. Anytime someone comes down here, they're like, oh, The Rock. Like, even if they don't watch it or they followed it, like maybe their brother was a fan.
Yeah.
So people can always make some kind of small connection, which I think is really cool.
Luckily I started a page separate of Wrestling for Sale for my collection, so it doesn't really get confusing for people and what I'm selling and what I'm not selling. And, there I kind of showcase it and also use it as a tool, like how Cher in Clueless uses her little computer thing to arrange her outfits. It's a good way for me to visually see what I have in my collection without going through all my drawers and fucking up everything that's been folded.
Yeah, that's actually smart.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite wrestler?
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, same with me.
I started to really like hear about him when he was doing the ECW stuff right before Ringmaster, but like I didn't have too much access because of my age, like to the ECW stuff. And I wish that there was more like superstar Steve Austin stuff.
Yeah.
I know there's the one shirt that you've posted and like that thing's incredible, but I wish there was more. Like there's really no figures, and that's a huge want on my list is like superstar Steve Austin. I have a favorite match, and I get teased about it by like a lot of like wrestling fans, but it's just something that just I have an emotional connection to, and I can just visualize it, and I remember how I felt watching it, and that was Austin against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14, and to me that was in my opinion, and I still feel this way, I always did, that was the greatest Stone Cold Stunner of all time. Just the way he spun him around and the way he hit it, I just thought it was a perfect execution of it. And I just thought the whole match, like I love that. And I get made fun of all the time, like that's your favorite match, but I just have an emotional connection to it.
I don't know why anyone would make fun of you. I think that the people who would maybe make fun of you just started like watching that era and they're like catching up, because the build up to that was tremendous. That's like my prime of watching wrestling, and it going from Shawn Michaels forming DX and building up this like crazy momentum in, with China and Triple H and them stealing like every single match. He looked unstoppable. So for that to culminate, even if the match is like a 5-star match, I don't care. It's about the emotion for me, and the emotion that I felt when he won that match. You don't need to defend that. There's a clear argument. If you're an Austin fan, that's one of the best matches of all time.
Absolutely. And just talking about it, I have like goosebumps right now just because I remember being like a 10-year-old kid, just watching that. And like, I have so much emotional connection to that. And like, I remember just, if you're an Austin fan, or anybody, you're a fan of anybody, you wait for that moment that they get that belt, that they get the title and they're the guy, and you wait and you wait. And I just felt like I was waiting forever. Like you said, you were a fan since 96, same here. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And when he got it, it was like, I almost couldn't contain how excited and happy I was, because it's something you just wait so long for. It was like Christmas Day, man. And I'll never forget that. No, I don't think any match has ever made me feel that connected.
I think the people who would give you shit about it, I know for a fact they at least didn't watch WrestleMania 13 live, because if you watched WrestleMania 13 live like I did, you saw this steady, rise of Steve Austin and the Austin 316 phenomenon. And for that to culminate like that, I think it was definitely one of the best matches of all time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I usually, when I say that, I usually get people who are like, oh, what about Steamboat and Savage? Great match. It's almost like a dance. It's like almost flawless, but that's not like, I don't have that connection. Like I said, like that's what I like.
And
everybody's different.
If you watch the first episode of the Wrestling Collectors, my two friends, Peter and Adam, big WrestleMania 3 guys, they're slightly older than us. They're like 40 years old, so they were watching that live. I didn't watch WrestleMania 3 until maybe 1990.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with it. I grew up with, WrestleMania 5. I grew up with WrestleMania 6. I watched that live. I went to 7. I went to 9. Like, that's the stuff I saw live, and that's where I had the emotional connection to watching. When did you really get into like hardcore collecting? Like, I'm not playing with these things anymore. I'm buying them to showcase and to basically complete collections.
Honestly, as a kid, doing the Hasbros, because at the time, my dad, he had like a side hustle, and his side hustle was like a toy dealer, I guess you'd say, at flea marts. So, and like he taught me about like basically like the beauty of the art, not just the art of the figure, but the art of everything that goes into it, the design of the packaging, how they present it to you, how they make it appeal to you on the shelves. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. But I have a lot of loose stuff, but I have a lot of stuff on the card. And they're like, why? It's supposed to be played with. And like, well, I'm a 32-year-old man. I'm not going to play with it.
Right.
But I see the beauty of it. Like we were talking about the design on shirts, and that's art to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like these packaging, it's art. There's a reason that they do everything on a package. There's a reason for it. Every little piece of information, it's trying to draw you in, and that's part of the complete package. And to me, like I said, it's art. But they used to have these bins at KB Toys, the 3 for $10 bins for Hasbro's, and my money that I would get from like birthdays and stuff, like I would literally buy like 2. So I would have 1 to keep loose, and I have like nearly a complete mock mint on card collection of Hasbro's from that. And they still have the KB 3 for $10. That's from my childhood as a little kid. Like he just taught me like the value of these things. So, and even he'll talk now, he'll say it was funny. Like I would ask him to play with me as a kid with like my Hasbro's, and he was like, you never really wanted to like smash them or make them wrestle. You would stand them and like pretend like them standing next to each other, and you would come up with a match. You wouldn't actually like play with them because I didn't want to damage them. As crazy as that sounds for like a little kid, like he taught me the value of like keeping something in better condition makes it more desirable.
Is there a particular set that you're proud of most?
Honestly, yeah. And it's not necessarily the most desirable for wrestling figure collectors, but around, in 1996, Jack Specific got the WWF license, and they started producing these bone crunching action figures. Again, emotional connection, like that was around that time, 96, 97, 98, 99. Like I loved them. And it's gotten to the point where I have every single figure from the line except one, and I've been struggling so much to find it. I will one day, but I have every single figure, including subtle, stupid little variants of just like a different paint color here. This, like, I have all of them. And the majority of them are right there. A lot of them are in buckets somewhere, but that's something I'm proud of because it's such a crazy line and a crazy time where they were just throwing out product left and right. So much stuff because WWF was just booming. And a lot of people don't have every figure and every variant from that line. And like I said, except for one mail away Stone Cold Steve Austin variant figure, he just has a different color WrestleMania 15 shirt on. And it's confusing. Anytime anybody asks me about it, it's very confusing. They think it's one figure, but
yeah, I know.
The
other one, the common one, I see on eBay a lot. It's like $15.
With the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that I know a little bit. I don't know a lot. Yeah. I know a little bit.
The fact that you know that is impressive. And I have been searching years for it. And there's been multiple times, I'd say 2 or 3 times where I found it. And as I go to buy it on eBay, somebody else picks it up because it doesn't pop up often. But I grabbed 3 other items that like are really important to me. Number one is this is a mail away Hulk Hogan Hasbro figure in Minton bag, sealed bag. And the reason that this is one of my favorites is because it's something that as a kid I didn't want because I was like, I just thought it was so ugly. It's Hulk Hogan in this red, it almost looks like he's in like a red jumpsuit. I just didn't like it. And then the value shot up, and it was just something that I just never thought that I would own, ever. And then I am a member of this Hasbro's group on Facebook. It's called Hasbro's, and they do raffles. And they were putting one up, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll put $20 into the raffle. I think it got me 4 spots, and I won.
Wow.
And it's like these sell between it's the whole market fluctuates, but I would say anywhere between like 800 and like 1200, depending on the condition of the bag, this, that, and the other. But I was like, I got it for $20. It's something I never thought I would own because I got to draw a line at around $1,000 for a figure. Like, here's another one, not really necessarily valuable. And I learned from you that there's not much market for the Rock merchandise. That's the one thing I struggled with when I was selling the wrestling shirts. Could not give vintage Rock shirts away.
Well, now it's changed a little bit because
really,
well, before when I was really starting to buy the Rock stuff and Goldberg and Wolfpack was so easy to find, and it's to the point where you could win a bid at like $15 on eBay and get basically any Rock shirt you want. Now, as everything else has gone up, it's a bargain at like $80.
Yeah.
People are going after that, and they sell. So, that coupled with the fact that by the day, The Rock is becoming the most famous human on the planet.
Yeah.
His stuff will go up. But at the time, didn't have a ton of value. It's still not as rare as a lot of this other stuff. But at the same time, just the fact that he's the most famous human on the planet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Value. Yeah.
And that's partially why I like this. This is the resin prototype of his very first figure. So this, like you said, it's the most famous man pretty much in the world. This is his first figure, and this is the resin prototype. And it's different than the actual figure that came out, because when Rocky Maivia first came out, he would always do this fighting pose with his fists. But that's not very playable for a figure. But they extended his arms out, elongated them, and you couldn't get him in this fighting pose. And this is how it was displayed on the back of the packaging, was this resin prototype.
That's how he debuted. He came out walking down the aisle with the Survivor Series.
And I think it just looks great. And I always wanted this figure with these fighting hands. And I actually got it from Mark Bushy. He hooked me up with this, and it's one of my favorite pieces.
Thanks,
Mark Bushy's I don't know. Yeah, thanks, Mark. I don't know where he gets a lot of this stuff, how he does it, but he's constantly coming up on some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, like you said, he's the most famous man in the world, and I have the resin prototype of his first figure, and I just think that's so cool. And the other thing I got here is I'll take it out of the baggie. This is a Winston Toys eraser figure of Wendy Richter, and so these are rare in itself, and they're a pretty expensive figure. And I got this at a yard sale for $1, and you would never find this for $1. And it's one of the first female wrestling figures. So to me, this is am I a Wendy Richter fan? Absolutely not. I couldn't tell you one match that I enjoyed or I could think of. But to me, this is a piece of history. And if I'm gonna have all this, I had to have this figure. And when I found this for $1, I was like, sold. And it's now we look at the world of wrestling, and women's wrestling is at an all-time high. You watch Raw, SmackDown, there's going to be at least 2, 3, maybe more segments dedicated just to this. And this is when they were hardly ever shown on television, let alone had merchandise and toys. And to just think that this is one of the first wrestling women figures is very cool. Of course, Miss Elizabeth had her LJN, but she wasn't necessarily known as a wrestler. She was, the Macho Man's valet. And in the AWA line, they had Precious. But again, same thing. She was the women's wrestler in the 80s. And I just think it's so cool to have this piece because of the historical value to it.
So you have a vast collection. Do you have an estimate of how many figures you think you have at this point?
In this room, no, but I have a massive spreadsheet of everything that I own. And I still, like I said, I have stuff in storage. I have stuff in a storage closet here. I have stuff in storage at my parents' house still. And total, it's a little over 9,000 pieces, figures, and not all of that's mint on card. I have a lot of loose stuff. Right now, new stuff. I'm more focused on getting it mint on card. But yeah, it's a little bit over 9,000 because I was getting crazy when I first started making real money, and it was every little change to a figure, I was I have to have every single one, and I've kind of slowed down from that.
It's very, very, very impressive. It's a different world than the clothing. This is so cool to walk into a room and just maybe something you haven't noticed in a while, you notice 3 months later, and you're just in awe of it. My stuff sits in a drawer. Occasionally, the funny thing I do is occasionally I'll refold all my clothes just so I can look at everything.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really get to appreciate it like a toy room.
But up until the past couple years, a lot of stuff you were able to get incredible deals on, buy cheap lots of figures. I mean, the game has completely changed. You'd be hard pressed to find a majority of things for cheap on eBay now, because there's so many fish in the pond that so many things hold extraordinarily more value than they used to. So when I say I have all these things, I was buying a lot of stuff for very, very cheap. I was buying huge lots off of people for very, very cheap. That's one thing that like a lot of people are like, oh, you just throw all your money away. It's like, no, like I'm very, very smart with my investment. I don't just go like, oh, I want this figure, I'll pay any price for it.
Right.
I'm very, very smart, and I'm very patient, and I refuse to pay more than what something is worth, because I feel like if I'm doing that, I'm taking a loss.
Let me ask you a question. When you say you refuse to pay something than more than it's worth, are you talking about the current market value, or are you talking about its worth long term?
I'm talking about it's worth to me. So that's actually a good question. Okay. Because a lot of people, they'll go on like, oh, how much is this worth? They'll go on eBay and they look at sold listings, and it's like, okay, so it goes for this. Majority of people go on eBay and they don't look at sold listings and like, oh, this guy's got this for $500. So I'll give you the best example, and this is a current example of what I mean by what it's worth. So All Elite Wrestling, they just put out these action figures. I don't know if you're familiar. This is very popular line. It's only one series in. Each series comes with 2 chase figures, okay? One of the figures is limited to only 500 made. One of them is only limited to 1,000 made. The one that's only has a 500 made is Cody Rhodes. And these figures are going for 1,000 plus on eBay. Really want it. It's not worth 1,000 plus to me. You cannot tell me that this brand new figure that has hardly even made it onto store shelves at this point in time is worth more than the majority of LJN mint on card figures who are even more limited than 500, because the majority were open in our time. You just can't convince me of that fact. So, to me, that figure, I would say, for me, I wouldn't pay more than 300 for it. The way I perceive the situation, because it's so new, okay? Somebody bought it for a premium on Ringside Collectibles, and they said, I'm going to flip this onto eBay. Now, there was none on eBay at the time. That gives you free reign to basically build the market.
Yep.
So somebody took this figure and said, I'm going to put it up there for starting bid $850. You go on there and you see that that's what they start for. Everybody else who got one starts listening for that price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But here's the thing. There's only so many people that are willing to pay $1,000 for a new figure that was just produced in 2020.
You know, I have a friend named Dante who owns a great sports card store in Los Angeles. And he was explaining to me, you know, like you said, you can't compare it to like an LJN or Hasbro's or things like that, but they're purposely putting out much fewer right now. And even though it's a new name, you know, we're seeing Mike Trout and LeBron James card go for $1 million. And they're not rookie cards. It's just that the card companies put out so few that's why they hit that point. And, you know, while I do agree with you, I think it could drop. At the same time, if AEW, let's say, you know, makes a major signing and all eyes are on AEW and everything starts to skyrocket, that toy could go up. We don't know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You don't know. You don't know. And that's just me guessing, just from like past collecting and everything like that. But you're right. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. I think everything is on an incline.
That was my next question was where do you think this thing is going? You think it's going to keep going up overall? Hasbro's, LJ's, everything. Overall.
And I'm seeing it right now. It's overall going up. But just in the past 2 years, the Hasbro 1-2-3 kid, do you know the story? Like, okay, the 1-2-3 kid, like it's very sought after. And just in the past few years, it's skyrocketed in value. A mint on card one, even loose ones. but mint on card ones skyrocket. And I try to explain to people the reason behind this is as you get more and more collectors who they had these things as kids and then they got rid of them, and now they're coming into money of their own and they have a house, and it's like, oh, I want to relive that childhood. So many people are buying these mint on card Hasbros and opening them, and people get so pissed when they see that. When I see that, I'm like, you're making mine more valuable because you're eliminating more and more from the pool, and I just see mine becoming more and more valuable. Almost because every other post of yours, I see somebody saying some kind of shit talking, price bashing, and majority of the time I think you just ignore them because it's like you just clearly you don't know what you're talking about.
I usually just respond and I say, yeah, the item already sold.
Yeah. Because that's the proven way. Like,
right.
If someone's going to say that, clearly they don't know what they're looking at. And
yeah.
Now, maybe when someone starts in a field like yours or in collecting, they might make that mistake of overvaluing something. But when you're in it and you're really in the trenches for an extended period of time, you know what you have and what it's worth.
My goal is not to post items and let it sit there at a certain price and let it, accumulate dust. I want to move everything right away. So yeah. I know the value of a lot of these things. Like you said, I've been doing it long enough that I know where it's going. I know that even if I price something and it looks like it's $25 more than it should be, guess what? It's in a month, it's going to be way more than that.
And what was the biggest shirt? Austin era. Austin 316.
397.
So
Smoking Skull.
When this figure came out, the Austin 316 with the Smoking Skull on the back, and it resembled the actual shirt, to me, this was the best wrestling figure that you could possibly find and meant so much to me because the majority of the time you watched for Austin, you wanted him to come out in those jeans. You wanted him to come out in that t-shirt. You wanted to see him stun somebody in the ring at the very beginning of Raw before a match even started. And this figure I just thought was perfect, and the timing of it was perfect. And to me, this is my personal favorite wrestling figure of all time. Is it valuable? No. Is it necessarily sought after? No. But for me, what it represents, I think it's excellent, and I think it's perfect. And it's one that I have like in the very front of my shelf from this era. I just think it represents so much, like I said. One of my things is anytime that a figure comes out of a guy, if you look at it and you're like, how did he get a figure? I want it. Because I just think that's so cool that these obscure figures, like in like the 2000 era, this guy, Colin Delaney got an action figure. And it's like, how did he get a figure? I don't know, but I need it. Like, I just think that obscure, strange, that the majority of people wouldn't look for. I just think it's so cool. And I feel like every wrestler should get a figure. And when people who aren't there long enough get one, I just think it's something I need to collect. I'm sure, I don't know if you see this in the t-shirt world, but in the figure world, it's growing to the point where there's a lot of ego. And I don't understand that. And I noticed with the show, it's not about ego. It's not about, oh, I have all of this. Like, I get people message me all the time, saying, oh, you have the greatest collection. And I don't think I do. I have a cool collection. I have a lot of stuff, but it's to say anybody has the greatest collection is, I don't know. I don't get the ego behind it because there's so many people who have things that I'm just like, wow, that is so cool. I don't even know how you got that, or one of a kind prototype items. And it's so hard to classify the greatest collection. And I feel like some people are striving to be that greatest collection instead of just enjoying it. And what your show is all about is the enjoyment, the fandom, and why we do these things and the love behind it. It's not just, I want this clout. And I think that's really cool. And that's what I like about the show. And I'm glad that you asked me to come on. Yeah.
Thank you. I talked about this before on podcasts and things like that. There is like an Achilles heel with wrestling fandom, and they call it like the biggest fan theory. And it happens with the band Fish. It happens with Star Wars. It happens with wrestling. where everyone is trying to outdo each other to become the biggest fan. And, you know, I've reached this level of comfort where, you know, I only need like 6 more shirts. I'm good. And that's what I want. There's completionists out there that, you know, they're really trying to one up everyone. And I like my favorite part about this show is interviewing people like you, interviewing people like Matt, Peter Rosenberg, and getting to the root of where this all started and like what the final, you know, goal is.
Yes.
It's nice to hear that you don't need much more. You know,
no, absolutely not.
It seems like you're very comfortable with what you have, and I think you are being a little modest. I think you do have, if not the greatest toy collection, definitely in the conversation. And I know that because the all-time great toy collections, to my knowledge, all told me to talk to you.
Mike has one of, if not the greatest wrestling toy collection in the entire world. He has everything from the early 80s to today's new releases. From LJNs and Hasbros to Mattel Elites and AEW figures, the guy just has it all.
You know, like I was saying about the ego thing is that there's, along with ego in collecting, there's a lot of jealousy. And I think, you know, people like Matt, I think he gets a lot of hate solely from jealousy, because what his collection has that mine doesn't is he has a lot of one of a kind pieces that people really can't get. And some people, that really bothers them. When someone has something that you can't get, no matter how hard you try, you can't get it because there's only one. What I see when I look at his collection is I'm like, it's not mine, but I take pride in knowing that he has pretty much every unreleased Hasbro prototype all in one. And I feel like it, in a weird way, that's almost like a gift to wrestling figure collectors, because it's like, here they all are at once, right here, all of them. You can look at them right there. Instead of seeing this guy has this one, this guy has this one. And maybe that's a weird way for me to look at it, but I just don't understand the jealousy. I don't understand the ego. At the end of the day, I'm collecting toys. Let's just enjoy it. Let's have fun. That's what they were made for initially.
Exactly.
And
we talked about that on his episode as well. We all walk a fine line when we actually talk about our personal collection. There's 2 things about it. One, we're showcasing that we have the item, but at the same time, a lot of people that follow us don't know that these items exist.
Yeah.
And this is the first time a lot of these people will see these items, and then it turns into a saved search on eBay, and then hopefully people find them. But unless we are sharing what we have and putting it out there, what are people trying to get?
I want to see that stuff I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I want that excitement. I don't understand people who just, they want it all at once. I love the fact that 20-something years after the Hasbros ended, we're still discovering things that we didn't know were even being planned or going to exist. I love that. I live for that stuff. I get a lot of people, actually, I don't know if you get this, but I get a lot of people messaging me saying, I love looking at your page. I'm new to collecting. What kind of advice would you give me? And I give everybody the exact same advice. Everybody, I say, my number one advice I would give you is just have fun. Don't get too caught up in, I need to compete, I need to have this. Just have fun. Get the things that you want. People ask me like, oh, should I get this figure? And it's like, don't ask me. Do you like that figure? If you like it, get it. Don't just get it because everybody else on Instagram has it.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it. Do what you like. Get what you like, and don't worry what other people think. You know,
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people they get into it for different reasons. It's not. Is this all worth a lot of money? Yes, it is. But is that why I'm in it? No. If I was in it for the money, you'd be seeing this stuff being unloaded left and right.
I'm honored that I got to bring you on the show. I'm very fortunate that, you know, I get to interview people like you and Matt and Sheena and learn about this stuff. It's incredible seeing what you've sent me in terms of your collection and hearing you talk about it. And it's very refreshing to hear that you don't have one of these crazy items out there that you need. It seems like you're almost to the point of complacency, which is very nice.
And that's the importance of it, is having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'll go back to Matt, for instance. Like he it almost seems like he lives for finding slight variations and changes in things that have over the years. And the reason behind that is because I think he loves these figures so much that to see that there's something different or a change that maybe he didn't know about or a small variation, it's exciting. When you love something so much, it's exciting to see those things. And, you know, it's good to be enthusiastic about something.
Yeah.
And I hope that, like, I hope I never complete this. I know that's probably a weird thing to say. I hope I never complete this because I live for the collecting part.
Very happy that we got to do this. I hope we can catch up again soon. And
Yep.
If anyone out there has the Austin figure that he's looking for, Mike, what do you think is the best way to get a hold of you?
On Instagram, it's at FigHeal. And I also run another page. It's at Unreleased Wrestling Figs. That's if you're in the wrestling figure or even wrestling world, it's almost a must follow Unreleased Wrestling Figs because there's such cool stuff that the majority of it, I guarantee that you haven't seen.
Mike, it was incredible having you on. I hope everyone goes out and follows both accounts of yours. And I could just tell you, I learned so much today. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you for having me, man. Like, I mean, I've followed your account on my personal account, Instagram. So it was really cool to have you reach out, and it was an honor to be on here. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll let you enjoy your Sunday.